Hello everyone, Soprano Theories here, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another video. Before we get started, be sure to click subscribe and click the bell to get notifications on all upcoming Sopranos content. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, as well as be sure to check out my newly launched merchandise store via Spreadshop. There you can find everything from t-shirts, hats, hoodies, and more. A link to my socials and my merchandise will be linked below. In The Sopranos, there's many characters that can get under the skin of Soprano fans, with characters such as Janice, Ralphie, and Richie April. But no character seems to grind Soprano fans' gears more than that animal of Tony Blundetto. Throughout his journey on The Sopranos, Blundetto makes a lot of stupid and questionable decisions that later have a long-lasting and life-altering outcome. He differs completely from the rest of the Soprano family. First, it's his overall look, that consists of his extremely skinny stature and his awful tattoos. And this is something that seems to make him stick out in a bad way, as traditionally in television and film, mafia gangsters are accustomed to be macho, masculine, can look to handle themselves, and not necessarily ones to have awful jail tattoos and be all skin and bone. And in some cases, mafia members can be muscular like what we saw with Perry Annunziata. So when Blundetto is seen later on going head to head with a civilian in Kim, it's no surprise that we see him almost lose this fight and not hold his own. Even during this fight with Kim and other scenes that involve Blundetto, his overall build doesn't do him any favors, which results in him using and grabbing weapons such as plywood, and consistently using firearms throughout his tenure almost displays him as frail and scared. His ridiculous wardrobe doesn't do him any favors either. His suits are always extremely outdated, and ones that often have bulky shoulder pads resting on his shoulders. And when Blundetto's fortune turns, when as by chance he finds $12,000, the suits he buys with that money are still hideous. And when we take this all into consideration, Tony Blundetto feels like the only character on the show that doesn't necessarily feel like a traditional gangster. But Tony Blundetto feels like the only character who shouldn't have been on the show at all. But the reasoning for me saying this is more so from the actor Steve Buscemi. It's his odd look that doesn't make him feel like a traditional gangster or a gangster at all. He clearly sticks out amongst the rest of the guys, but with him wanting to branch out into the massage therapy industry, and his brief attempt to try and put his gangster past behind him doesn't do him any favors in anyone's eyes, especially Tony's. He's irresponsible to say the least. The fact that he blew $12,000 that he found on the ground in one night on some hideous suits just speaks volumes to his character and how immature he really was. Whether it was always making jokes that were oftentimes more cringe than funny, and Blundetto also didn't know when to stop when it came to his cringe jokes. Almost like another Sopranos character that many fans have come to hate rather than love in Feech Lamanna. And even recording Carmela's rear end at her father's birthday party, poking fun at Kim who provided him with an opportunity to achieve his life goal, Blundetto clearly displays to us and to Tony that he simply cannot be trusted and that he has not yet matured fully since he was away in prison. You would think after all those years being away from friends and family would let an individual like Blundetto grow and mature and think things over and educate himself, which he fully did by becoming a licensed massage therapist. However, his corny jokes and immaturity was just always a part of his character and there was no escaping it, no matter how many times Tony told his cousin to stop. Upon arriving back from a lengthy prison sentence, Blundetto gets whatever he wants most of the time. His cousin gives him a backroom casino over Christopher, he finds thousands of dollars on the ground by chance, not to mention that his cousin is the family's boss and favors him over everyone in the family. Even more than Christopher, someone who Tony groomed and trusts. Even when Blundetto puts everyone at risk by committing the murders of Bill Leotardo and Joe Peeps, he still can do no wrong in the eyes of Tony. Despite Tony stating that he's giving Blundetto the same protection in the entire Peeps and Leotardo situation that he would give anyone else in the family, however, we all know it and everyone else in the family knows it that Tony is lying through his teeth. as the only reason why Tony is hemming and hawing over killing and protecting his cousin is the fact that Tony holds a soft spot for Tony B, as he ultimately went away to prison the night of Tony's first panic attack. As when we and Tony reflect back on this night, it ultimately and should have been both of them going away to prison rather than just one Tony. But no matter how many times Tony Blundetto denies it and how bleak it may seem, he is completely jealous of his cousin's rise to power within the family and the life he has built and his wealth. We can clearly see this when Blundetto is introduced to Tony's family that he has raised, the gifts and the high life that Tony has at the palm of his hands, and when we see the luxurious mini mansion that his cousin has been living in, Tony Blundetto is clearly jealous. When Blundetto came out of prison, he was able to convince himself that he was done with the mafia lifestyle for good. He was committed to studying and putting in the work that comes with being a licensed massage therapist. But when luck would have it that he would find $12,000 on the ground, it would alter his life forever, as it opened a closed door that Blundetto did not want to go through. It reminded him of his youth and gave him a taste of the good old days, the life and his life before he was sent away to prison and before his very own daughter wanted no part of her father. The days when he was a youngster making lots of money doing heists and being a rebel. It's almost as if Blundetto feels as he's owed something by his cousin after serving 20 years in prison that was basically for him. Whether it's a new gig with the casino, stumbling onto money with the $12,000, or even a bump up with a potential hit in the Joe Peeps or Billy Leotardo situation. He feels that the only people who respect him now are Angelo and Rusty, with Angelo being a close counterpart of his that he spent time with in prison. And it's coincidentally Angelo who offers the contract for Joe Peeps. And when Blundetto wants to get more action from his cousin, we see and hear the famous line of Tony B saying, "Put me in, coach." It's no wonder he separated himself from the crew. The Peeps contract was a way of Blundetto earning more after the $12,000 wore off. However, it's when Phil whacks Angelo is when things really take a turn for Blundetto. Although it doesn't really have anything to do with him and the fact that he doesn't have to get involved, however, as we all know, he does, and it's for the worse. His venture back into the mafia started long before he found the $12,000. As the saying goes, once a criminal, always a criminal. As Blundetto realized the ease that comes with being a criminal and a mobster. The disposable income is always at your fingertips, and murder and moving up are just a breath away. He realized just how hard it is to live an honest life and earn an honest living by starting the massage business. He saw how little he was earning as a masseuse compared to his colleagues who did a fraction of the work and made much more money, as this is entirely what makes him snap during the scene with Kim that results in the fight. It's his duty and calling to get back at Phil for whacking Angelo, despite if the outcome will upset his cousin who's the boss of the family. It would have been so interesting to see if Blundetto could have eventually landed a shot on Phil and how much of the war and wasted drama could have been avoided. What are your thoughts about Blundetto? Did he stink as a character? Did he do the right thing? Or was he just a lost cause and couldn't figure it out any other way than the mafia life he was so accustomed to living? Let me know down in the comment section below. As always, for more Sopranos content, keep it locked here, right here on this channel.